The aquatic landscapes, in which Kama's lustful arrows incite the gods and mortal creatures to procreate, are the same grounds on which even immortal gods of the Hindu pantheon come to life. Such is the case for the two famous children of Shiva and his female companion, both of whom are conceived on the banks of either a sacred river or a lotus tank. Although this mythic figure inherits many of his father's divine attributes, Ganesha is not actually conceived by his father's seed, but rather by immaculate conception on account of Parvati's loneliness and desire to bear offspring. In contrast, the second child of Shiva and Parvati, known as Skanda, is born on account of an errant squirt of Shiva's potent semen that gets loose by accident into the Ganges River. Both of these children are born, therefore, under circumstances that cannot be attributed to the desires of Shiva to procreate, because he has no such thing. Hence, the god of dissolution is able to maintain his specific role as destroyer, despite his stated intentions of retaining his cosmic semen in his erect lingam, the fluid that is often identified as soma in classical mythology. As noted earlier, Parvati is the mirror image of Shiva, yet she is overtly more desirous and, in fact, able and intent on participating in creative acts, despite her destructive potentials and her husband's reticence to have anything to do with creating children. The dual personalities of Shiva's feminine form are portrayed aptly in a sculpture from southern India. As you see, while Shiva dances across a labyrinth of lotus stems with a trident, serpent, a lotus-formed goad in hand, and a drum that beats to the passage of time, the underworld figures, seen below, known as yakshas or gandharvas, seem to spring to life as they pull lotus stems from their mouths. To the right side of the central dancing figure, we observe a voluptuous, benevolent image of Shiva's consort with a lotus blossom in hand. This face of the goddess reveals an attractive and nurturing side of nature. But just to the side of Parvati, we observe also a haggard old woman with dried skin, jutting ribs, and projecting bones. This is, in fact, the same goddess, but now representing the forces of destruction, which are owned by Durga. Durga embodies life when it is on the wane, for such is the dance of life, in truth. Among the gods, we also observe the jovial, elephant-headed child of Parvati, who dances beneath the gaze of his mother. And Parvati's second child, Skanda, is observed on the other side of Shiva, riding his peacock. But unlike Ganesha, Skanda is a god of war. Thus, the offspring of Shiva and Parvati also represent the ambiguous options in one's passage from life to death, as a child or a warlike spirit. Ganesha is a popular figure and has long been revered across India. Even today, he is worshipped as a god that removes spiritual and material obstacles in the lives of his devotees. Known as the Lord of Obstacles, or the Lord of Elephants, Ganesh is a god of relatively recent origin, since there is no mention of such a child in the Vedas or the early epics. Like his father, with whom Ganesh is identified specifically in later doctrine and scriptures, even if Shiva has no paternal attachment to him, Ganesha is a god of paradox. He is, after all, the largest and most powerful of all terrestrial creatures, yet he is a baby elephant that chooses a minuscule creature to be his standard vehicle, a shrew. Ganesha is full of life when he dances for the world. But then he also has an edge when he dances with an axe and a trident in his hands. He inherits these weapons from his father, and he knows innately what to do with them. Destroy obstacles. Destroy world illusion. So the benevolent child god is also associated with death, as implied here by a sculpture from the island of Java, where Ganesha sits in lotus position on a bed of human skulls instead of a flower. But still as a child, Ganesha embodies the creative potentials of the material world, not so unlike his mother. According to medieval scriptures, it is said that all cosmic eggs, aka Brahmalokas or Hiranyagarbhas, which would be lotus flowers, reside within his body. He is also considered to be an incarnation of Shiva on some occasions, inasmuch as Ganapati, Shiva, the lord of elephants, shares a title with his son. Or again, the Brahmananda Purana asserts that Ganesha is Shiva himself, transformed into Vishnu. Go figure. In fact, no real theological surprises here, because in Hindu doctrine, every creature, immortal or otherwise, can make the same claim. By the 16th century, the popularity of Shiva's elephant-headed son had risen to the stature of Brahma himself. The worship of Ganesha was therefore believed to deliver a devotee from sin and obstacles, and no less, to provide a complete understanding of the Vedas. On a few occasions, he enjoys the highest possible position in the Hindu pantheon by equating his cosmic possibilities with those of Brahman. For example, we pay homage to Lord Ganesha. Om, adoration to Ganapati. Truly, you are the observable, thou art that. This being an adage, an aphorism of the Upanishads. You, Ganesha, are verily the creator of the cosmos. You sustain the all, and you are the destroyer of all. For you are, to be sure, the all-encompassing reality. Eternal Atman made manifest. You are pure consciousness. You are pure bliss, Ananda. You are Brahman. Iconographic evidence suggests that Ganesha may have been equated with Brahman as early as the 6th century, as suggested by a lotus column of the aforementioned Dasavatara temple in central India, where the elephant-headed son of Shiva is illuminated by a dawning lotus flower. And not surprisingly, he claims a close association here with an overbrimming pitcher of the nectar of the gods, Soma, upon which floats a lotus flower. In most accounts of Ganesha's birth, Parvati plays a solitary role in the creation of her son. But differing versions of this mythic theme are found in a number of different Puranic sources. In one tale, Parvati decides to avoid arguments with her husband about her incessant longing for children, and consequently creates a child by herself by simply sculpting the head of an elephant from a ball of mud that she rubs off her body. She then throws the mud head into the Ganges River, and voila, her elephant child emerges from the river's waters. Many tales about Ganesha include a sideline that describes how the elephant child ended up with just a single tusk, a motif that seems to relate in some fashion or another to the single tusk of Vishnu's boar incarnation, which raises a lotus goddess out of his watery abyss. The single tusk of Ganesha is a signatory attribute of the elephant god, since one of his titles is Ekadanta, meaning Eka, one, Danta, tooth. One tale describes, for example, how Shiva decapitated and replaced the head of Ganesha with the head of his own elephant vehicle but only after removing one of the creature's tusks to use as an ascetic staff, a yogadanda. The single tusker and lotus flower are a common theme in Ganesha iconography, as noted in this Javanese sculpture that portrays the lotus-seated and lotus-naveled child with his missing tusk in his right hand. Two statues of Ganesha that guarded the entrance to Uluwatu's 11th century seaside temple on the Indonesian island of Bali perform a dance that is normally associated with Ganesha's father, Shiva, or just as much with the 7 dancing lotus nymphs that typically accompany Sri Lakshmi when she emerges from her lotus groves. For when a breeze moves across a field of massive lotus flowers, one does get the sense of dancing blossoms. Yet the image of an innocent elephant child contrasts starkly with the standard image of Ganesha's dancing father, Shiva, whose movements have a very distinctive cosmic purpose. While Shiva is often portrayed as a self-possessed, unmoved ascetic with dreadlocks, as a Mahayogi, a great transcendentalist, his dancing postures symbolize the end of the world, the unavoidable cessation and disintegration of living beings. The image you see here of a 12th century sculpture from central India portrays Shiva's role as the vanquisher of an elephant demon by the name of Gajasura. As you see here, Gajasura's body is being sent back into the underworld of Shiva's lotus stems. Or in a cosmic context, Shiva's dance signifies the end of a round of world delusion, for he is the Nata Raja, the veritable king Raja of dance, Nata. This would make him the proverbial unmoved mover of the cosmos. And as we know from our episode on the Vedas and the Upanishads, Shiva inherits this role and title from prehistoric Soma and Brahma. Shiva defines himself succinctly in the Kurma Purana as such: I am the originator, the God abiding in supreme bliss. I, the yogi, dance eternally. So as Nataraja, the king of dancers, provides a means by which the universal self and all of us is liberated from the prison of our material delusions. Shiva's fluid movements are known as the Tandava dance, and they are responsible for both creation and destruction. They separate the female qualities of Prakriti from the masculine properties of the mind, Purusha, to initiate a round of creation, and then turn around and proceed to destroy their creations in the image of a vanquished, what would seem to be a clueless child. Shiva's transcendental world wheel is equivalent to the wheel of life, or the wheel of time, the Maya chakra, which is symbolized by the lotus world wheel. Lotus flowers are the grounding on which Shiva performs his cosmic dance eternally. And the spiritual fires that engulf him emanate from his floral source and his floral being eternally. Shiva's fires destroy a newly born babe in this pillar of fire by pushing the creature back into the wheel of world delusion, which is to say, back into life and on his way to death. This birth will inherently lead to death, of course, for that which is born must always die. Hence the Tandava dance of destruction. By re-entering the fluxions of time, the unattained being will be trapped in life's stream as a twice-born form, i.e. reincarnated, and recurrently so, until moksha, that is, liberation from the delusionary wheel of Maya, is finally achieved. Although Shiva's dance of destruction creates an aura of spiritual fires, the god simultaneously creates the waters of the holy Ganges River and lotus blossoms from the dreadlocks on his head. In many visual renderings of the cosmic dancer, we observe two serpents slowing their ancient skins at the cosmic dancer's feet. Both of these dragons swallow the tail of their counterpart to keep the cycle of life ever turning. Because life disgorges and then consumes itself. Worn etchings of lotus flowers and trailing stems can be vaguely observed on this dragon's body, so as to symbolize his spiritual fervor and the ancient mythic image of destructive fires born from the watery abyss of Vishnu at the end of a Padmakalpa, a lotus cycle. As Shiva dances, he beats a hand drum to create the rhythm of time, and holds one of his hands upward in a hand gesture called a mudra that signifies fearlessness, abhaya. For life and death, pleasure and pain, abundance and dearth, are no more than illusions born from Shiva's Maya and his cosmic flower. Why are you fearing what is natural and inevitable?